Well, welcome. Really nice to see all of you here. This is a webinar, free webinar, co-hosted by 3 companies. My name's Erin, and I'm from Vintage Fitness, and we're going to be talking to you all about either for you or for a loved one, maybe your parents, how to keep them staying independently as they age. And I'm going to introduce Jessie and Fody in just a few minutes. There's a wealth of information for between the three of us in this area. And it's so great that you're here to plan ahead so that it's not an emergency situation that you're having to manage. All right, if you want to flip to the next slide there, Fody. So quickly about Vintage Fitness, I know most of you on the call. Vintage Fitness, we do personal training for seniors across the Greater Toronto area. There's a team of 14 of us, and we work both in person and virtually. We're very specialized to work with seniors. So we work with clients 65 to 93. Actually, she might have turned 94 as our oldest client currently. And people and clients really do achieve their health goals with us. It's a slow and steady process, but we really focus on their goals. And we've been doing this for a while. So I started the company in 2005 and I was pregnant with my second daughter, and she is 17 going off to university soon. So we've been around and doing this work for a long time. All right, next slide there, Fody. So the webinar is for you in a lot of different situations. If it's you, Wanda, you mentioned that you're talking about for you and your spouse. If you're worried about losing your independence, but haven't done any planning to assure you can stay home in your home as you age, and it's so great to have you here. Just wishing that it's all going to work out okay. Unfortunately, it doesn't usually work out well at all. So I think putting this planning, either if you're thinking about it for a loved one or for yourself, is so important and sometimes hard to do because you just don't even want to think about it, right? So I applaud you for coming and getting some information. If you're helping to care for aging parents and you just need some more support or information, Jessie will take us through a little bit about what that could look like, and when you think, oh, I really does my mom or dad need support? Do they not? She'll give you some great tips in this area. Fody is going to take us through renovations. So if you are doing some research and you think, should I move mom and dad to a retirement home? Should we reno their house? This will give you some data to say, okay, this is about how much a reno costs versus maybe a typical retirement home. So it gives you the chance to do the math a little bit. And then, as I mentioned, Jessie's going to take us through some signs, some really clear, practical signs that you should look at, which might flag that your loved one or someone in your life might need a bit of extra care. All right, next slide there, Fody. So this is the team. Again, I'm Erin. I've talked a bit about Vintage Fitness. I'm super excited to have Jessie and Fody with us on this webinar. Jessie is the client care coordinator for a company called Comfort Keepers. She'll tell you more about them. They do in-home care for seniors. And what has really impressed me about Jessie is how thoroughly they vet their caregivers. Is one. And the second thing is that they have specific programs. So it's not just, you're going to give mom a shower or bath or whatever it is, but there's more things to engage brain, to have social time. Like it's not just a placeholder and you're doing these specific things. So they've really thought through their programming. So I think that puts them ahead of a lot of other organizations that I've seen. And then Fody is a contractor, but he's passionate and specialized with aging in place. And he'll show you some pictures of his renovations, but the thing that I'm most impressed with for Fody is the fact that it's accessible spaces he builds, but you don't look like you're in an institution. It doesn't make your home look like an institution, which is great for resale. And it's also, you want to entertain people. You don't want to feel like it's like home/hospital. So it's beautiful, open, modern looking spaces that happen to be accessible as we age. All right, next one there, Fody. So the typical causes that I see for loss of dependence. So I haven't sourced this information because it's really just from my brain. So over the last 17 years, these are the things. So I'm totally happy to have a chat discussion. I might have missed a big one, and if I did, please throw it in the chat. I'd love to learn more and to get more information in this area. From what I've seen in the last 17 years, falls is a big one. That causes a loss of independence. And I'll talk a bit about the impact that exercise and also FODI's design can impact the chance of a fall here for sure. Lack of stamina and strength to maintain their home. So people, it just gets all too much for them. So I think this could be a combination of maybe getting a bit of extra help with some things, as well as exercising to help to build your strength and stamina. I caution adult children sometimes when they're looking at shifting their loved one into a condo or into a retirement facility, because what happens is the energy and the things that they have to do to maintain their home involves strength, it involves flexibility, involves stamina. And what happens is sometimes they lose that strength pretty quickly when they move into an assisted living facility or a condo. So, you know, if mom can walk the stairs Monday, she can probably walk up the stairs on Tuesday. So just, you know, give the benefit of the doubt, unless you're really concerned about safety, which you could kind of make some changes to the home. But make sure that if you are moving to assisted living, you're moving to a condo, you have to think about ways, how am I going to keep my strength and stamina up without, because I don't have any of my household chores. Dementia comes in, and I think Jesse will be talking a bit about the sort of some of the dementia care. There is extra help you can get for dementia, and there's also a huge connection. I did a whole webinar on the brain to exercise connection with dementia and just getting enough blood flow to the brain. But sometimes dementia can cause lack of loss of independence for sure. And the last one, and this is especially relevant if you're outside the city and you're not comfortable on the TTC, loss of agility and reaction time to be able to maintain a driver's license. So exercise can help on this front. So we do some work with checking blind spots, having the mobility in the neck to check blind spots, and having the agility to be able to drive a car. You can actually do exercises to help with that as well. So any other, let's see, Pat. Oh, hi, Pat. Nice to see you. Look at frailty, primary reason. Okay, thank you, Pat. I would definitely have a look at that. And then I'm so glad that you're here. So a couple of slides, just a bit about exercise. And I think I'm preaching to the choir a little bit with this group, because as I say, I know most of you, but I wanted to tell the story just through a couple of clients. So to show you how exercise and independence can look different depending on the situation. So the man sitting with the woman beside him and the weights, and you see up in the corner, that's actually his virtual trainer. The woman sitting beside him is his personal support worker. So this is a situation, his name's Danny, and I'm going to share a little bit of information about his exercise assessments as we go. But him and his personal support worker work a couple of times a week with Dee to really help maintain their strength and keep him living independently in his apartment. The middle slide, Barry, he's a bit of a superstar. So he is 78, I think, and he's stronger. His trainer is Prashant, and he's a kin graduate and instructor at U of T, and he says he thinks he's stronger than a lot of teenagers I see. So he's, you know, he was worried about his strength, he was worried about his balance, and he works really hard at it. So if you add resistance to muscle, it can, I'm not going to guarantee you're going to be doing push-ups, but he wanted to do it. It was important to him, and he can stay living in his home pretty much as long as he wants at this stage for sure. And then the other picture of the woman climbing the stairs, she's fantastic. So Serena, she was had COVID. She was in a walker. She's worked with us for a couple of years. She shifted from a walker to a cane, and in this picture, she was climbing up 9 flights of stairs to the top of her apartment building. So I'm not going to say it's easy. I'm not going to say it doesn't take effort, but exercise has an absolutely enormous impact on being able to stay independently living in your home. All right, quickly, just to kind of show you how you can measure, because I think it's important when someone has a goal or they want to stay in their home, that they have a specific metrics around it, so they understand, am I getting stronger? So this is Danny, chair sit to stand, which is just sitting in and out of a chair, has a big impact on it, be able to stay independent. So A lot of people have to go to assisted living because they no longer can stand up. And Jesse, I don't know if you see this a little bit in your work as well.
Absolutely.
So
transferring and repositioning, 100%.
Yeah. So just keeping your legs strong is super important. So he could do 12 in January and he could do 20 in May. So that directly links to his ability to stay living in his apartment. Quad leg raise, same kind of thing. It's looking at leg strength. We look at a lot of different things. I just pulled up a couple. Band back row, so back strength. Am I able to pick things up? Am I able to kind of lean over and tie my shoes? I mean, all of these things have to do any pulling motion. Gardening is back strength. And then arm curls is arm strength. So am I able to lift up my groceries onto the counter? All of that kind of stuff. You know, he's doubled his strength in most of the areas. And the last slide, if you want to shift one more, Fody, is balance. So this links to that fall risk that I talked about. And his balance has catapulted. So 8 seconds to 60, 31 seconds to 60, which decreases his chance of falling by huge amounts. All right, so that's me. Over to you, Jesse.
Okay, thank you, Erin. Again, good morning, everyone. My name is Jessie, and I'm the Client Care Coordinator at Comfort Keepers. Next slide, please. I'm going to tell you a little bit about who we are, how we started, and what we do. So Comfort Keepers first started in the United States, actually, in Springfield, Ohio in 1998. And we first came to Canada in 2004. Our company was brought over by Laurie Saunders, who's the VP of Comfort Keepers Canada. And our first office was actually here in York region. So at our Comfort Keepers location, we wear sort of two hats. We're the master franchise for all of Canada, as well as we service clients in Toronto, York region, and Newmarket. So we call ourselves Comfort Keepers GTA. We have over 40 offices across Canada and many across the GTA. We are absolutely coast to coast, from Victoria, British Columbia to Halifax, Nova Scotia. We are across the country and consistently expanding to service more seniors in our communities. Some services that we provide at Comfort Keepers, we provide companion care. So if you need someone just for some socialization, activities, as Erin mentioned, you know, especially with dementia care, doing puzzles and brain stimulating activities with clients. We provide personal care. So that could include bathing assistance, mobility, transferring assistance, respite care. So if you are a primary caregiver for your mom or dad and you need to go out for a golf game, or you're away for the weekend and you don't feel comfortable leaving mom or dad home alone, you can call Comfort Keepers and we're happy to assist on a short-term basis as well. We also provide specialized care and or palliative care. So many times, you know, families will call us in when they have a loved one who's palliative or receiving in-home hospice care, and Comfort Keepers will send in PSWs to be able to tend to the client's need and their care needs, which then allows the family to really spend that valuable time with their loved ones, and they're not focusing on being the care providers, but really just spending those meaningful moments together. As well, we also do escorted transportation. So assisting someone to and from an appointment, or just running groceries, errands, that sort of thing. As well as in companion care, I'll mention, we also provide light housekeeping. So that's a big thing that we see seniors need some assistance with, maybe taking care of the home. So we have home support workers who can come in and focus on some home support. So where can we provide care? Really, it's wherever home is for you. So whether that's a private residence, and that's going to be mostly the focus of today's conversation. So whether that's in a home or a condo, we can provide one-on-one care in retirement home, long-term care facilities, or in the hospital, where those care ratios are much larger, where you're seeing, you know, 1 to 30, 1 to 10. We often will be hired privately for one-on-one care. Next slide, please. A little bit more about what really specializes Comfort Keepers and what we do and what separates us from other agencies. A big part of our company is elevating the human spirit, and that flows through every aspect of our company. So it's about creating daily doses of joy with our clients and for our staff and caregivers, making memorable moments with our clients, and really focusing on client connectedness between client and caregiver. A big thing that separates us as well is that we practice interactive caregiving. So what does that mean? We encourage our caregivers to do things with the client as opposed to for the client, depending on what's achievable for that person. So this makes care much less task oriented, where PSWs from other agencies or maybe sometimes even the government might come in and they're here for a shower, they come, they shower, they leave. We encourage our caregivers to do things with the clients, maybe make a fun song while they're doing something, if they're cooking a meal together with the client, getting them involved in a safe way.
And
always
Jessie,
encourage,
I'll interrupt here in that there's a benefit physically to that. So sometimes when someone gets a PSW, all of a sudden they become like, could you get me a drink? Could you, which is all fine, but it reduces mobility and increases the amount of sedentary time. So I prefer to kind of, well, how about we got up and do it together, as opposed to it being them doing everything for them. I don't think it's beneficial necessarily.
100%, Erin. I agree with you wholeheartedly. And it's a big part also just about autonomy. And that's a big part of the topic of independence, is clients or your loved ones, feeling like they have autonomy over their personal care and how that's being provided to them. So we always encourage our clients to do instead of view as much as possible, which is what Erin just touched upon. And then finally is just technology support that we provide. So at Comfort Keepers, we offer the family members of our clients access to a Family Connect care portal. So that gives you access to care notes and reports that the caregiver has left after each and every visit. They could take a selfie when they're out with mom going to Tim Hortons or at the park together, just to provide an update. There's a messaging portal with our office, and then again, caregiver updates as well. Next slide. So now, as Erin mentioned before, we're going to talk about some signs that your loved one, or maybe you, may need some help in the home. Next slide. So we're going to go through a couple questions you might ask and notice yourself. Some I'll give examples, others are pretty self-explanatory, but the first one is your loved one wearing clothing that is dirty or has food stains? So again, this could be a sign that if mom's not changing and she's re-wearing the same clothes over and over again, it could indicate that when it comes to mobility, she's no longer able to do a lifting motion, or maybe has some pain that hasn't been looked at. Or it could just be signs of dementia that she's not realizing that she's not changing her clothing. Does your loved one wear his or her night clothes during the day? So again, staying in pajamas all day, not changing into daytime clothes, and then starting to see personal hygiene suffer because of that. Does your loved one wear the same outfit day after day? Is it apparent your loved one is not showering or bathing? This is a big one that becomes also, it's a touchy subject, starting the need for care. It's a difficult conversation. But if you're noticing that personal hygiene is being affected, you could say, Mom, when's the last time you took a shower? Oh, yesterday. But from what you can tell, maybe that's not the case. And it could be that he or she maybe is embarrassed to need some assistance. Maybe it's dementia. They're forgetting that they haven't showered. But again, these are all signs and symptoms that maybe some extra help is required. Does your loved one fail to comb or style their hair or brush their teeth? I can speak from personal experience. My grandmother, when her dementia was starting to get worse and worse, would say, no, yeah, of course, I brushed my teeth this morning. But as time progressed, her teeth were clearly visibly getting much worse condition, having to go to the dentist, and obviously discovering that she wasn't providing proper teeth care. And that was a big indicator to us that the dementia was getting worse. She wasn't able to properly care for herself, and we needed some additional assistance. Next slide. Is there unusual tearing or bruising of the skin that may indicate a fall? So again, seniors, and Erin knows this, seniors bruise very easily. Their skin is very sensitive. Bruising happens, but when you're noticing large areas, especially on like sides of legs or the more fatty areas where maybe they would have fallen on, or soreness of legs, again, maybe mom's not being totally honest that there was a fall or a concern. So you want to be looking for falls risks in the home, whether it's loose rugs or tripping hazards. And that's where someone like Fody might come in to be able to assist you with making sure that the home is more accessible to prevent falls. Does your loved one fail to recognize you or know your name? This one is obviously could be signs of dementia. Again, this is a sign you might need some extra help. Does your loved one fail to speak normally or have trouble communicating? So sometimes not remembering words, having trouble communicating where they know what they want to say, but it's not coming out, could be a sign of aphasia, which is a symptom of dementia. So again, something to look for. Are there signs of confusion, such as not knowing the date where he or she is or the season of the year? So often with clients who have dementia, you'll see maybe someone is wearing many, many sweaters during the summer and not realizing that that's a really an inappropriate way to be dressing because it's much too hot for that. So that could be a symptom as well of dementia and something to look out for. Next slide. Has your loved one withdrawn socially, or is he or she less communicative? So this is one that can be a bit trickier, but sometimes if you're noticing your loved one is withdrawing from social settings, it could be a number of things. It could be one, they don't have the energy to go out. Maybe they have a concern of falling while they're out. Maybe they don't have the right mobility devices to allow them to feel safe leaving the house. Maybe they can't dress properly or do their hair or makeup the same way they used to be able to. And these could be causes of embarrassment, which then causes them to withdraw more socially. So if you're noticing these patterns, it could be signs of depression. It could just be signs of loss of independence leading to embarrassment, and that your loved one could then maybe need some additional assistance.
And Jessie, I think an example here, we've trained clients that have a lifted toilet seat in their home, and they're hesitant to go out to restaurants because there isn't a lifted toilet seat in the restaurant. So sometimes from an exercise perspective, just making sure that you can make it all the way down, even if it isn't a lifted seat. So it just opens your world up socially a little bit.
100%. That's a great example. Are there foul smells coming from the refrigerator or cupboards? Are the cupboards void of nutritious food? I saw on Erin's slide, falls. The leading thing to falls is not only strength and mobility, but it's lack of nutrition and dehydration are the two #1 causes for falls. So many times if I first meet a client, I'll say, okay, what do you typically have for breakfast? Tea and toast. Okay. What do you have for lunch? Tea and toast. Well, we know that tea and toast is not a nutritious diet, but that might be what's achievable for that person to make for themselves independently. So by bringing in a caregiver or comfort keeper, we can help with then creating nutritious meals with vegetables and fruits and healthy fats and carbohydrates and protein, and making sure that that senior is getting the proper nutrition they need. Is the home cluttered, and does it have newspapers and mail accumulated? So again, clutter is it's also a huge falls risk hazard. And when it comes to accumulation of mail, it could be that maybe your parent is no longer feeling safe to go out to get the mail, whether the mailbox is at the outside of the house, around the corner, and maybe they're having a neighbor bring it all at once, which could be an indicator that they're not regularly getting out independently and could be a sign that they need some more assistance. Next slide. Last few ones. Are you finding expired medications or medications that are not being taken? This is a big one because, of course, if you have medications, you should be taking them as prescribed. A great recommendation I have is to always blister pack medication, have the pharmacy do that so that they're in one of those sheets pre-dispensed in the little bubbles with AM, PM, or whatever the timing is. And that way you have a visual if a medication hasn't been taken. So I have a client where her caregiver is instructed at the end of each visit, she has to take a picture of the blister pack so we can see and point out to the family which ones she's missed or if she's taken too many. And that's a really big indicator of if your loved one is being able to remember about their medications and if they're taking them as prescribed. Has your loved one fallen recently? That's a huge indicator that help is required. And is your loved one losing weight? Again, we talked about nutrition, and this could be an indicator that they're not getting that additional assistance they need. Perfect. So just wrapping up my section, this next part is 20 questions to ask when seeking home care. Next slide. And I have, so first, sorry, we'll go to this one first. So key themes to note when contacting an agency. So one is the quality of caregiver screening. And Erin touched upon this before. At Comfort Keepers, all of our caregivers, if they're PSWs, they're either Ontario certified personal support workers. We also have some foreign nurses working with us as PSWs. All of our caregivers have police vulnerable sector backgrounds checks. Every agency you're reaching out should be doing a police background check. as well as all of our caregivers have first aid and CPR certification. And how comprehensive is the care management? So what's involved? You're going to have an intake, or at Comfort Keepers, we do a care consultation, and that plan of care that's built out of that is constantly being updated depending on what's happening with that person. So you really want to find out from the agency, how often are you going to be looking at my mom's profile? How often can I make changes? What if something happens? How soon can we let the caregiver know of a change to the care? That's really important, especially when it comes to continuous care. Ongoing communication for the family. How are we going to keep you involved? How are you going to know about what's going on? Do you prefer email? Do you prefer a phone call? And use of technology. So again, I talked about the care portal before, and that's been a really, really valuable tool for us, especially for our clients who have children living in the United States or in another country. They have regular access to know what's going on with mom and dad's care. And a holistic approach to care. Is the agency going to be focusing not just on, tasks that need to get done, but are they focusing on my loved one's body, mind, safety, and well-being as a whole? And reputation, that's a big thing too. You need to know that who you're working with are a trusted company, that they have reviews, they have testimonials they could provide to you, and have they been around long enough to be able to talk about providing proper care for your loved one. Next slide. Ooh, we lost Fodi, that's okay. I can pull up this slide for us.
2 years on webinars, and we're all like experts on this. He must have dropped his Wi-Fi.
No problem.
Oh, you're back.
Oh, he's back. Okay.
That was weird.
Oh, good.
Woke everyone up. So, and I'll just mention, as Podi's pulling the presentation back up, if you have questions that you want us to cover, please do mention them in the chat or the Q&A, and we'd be more than happy to cover those.
Absolutely. Perfect. So we can go to next slide.
Not able to change slides. Just give me a second here.
Yep, no worries. I see Pat wrote, social withdrawal can also be caused by hearing impairment. Absolutely. So if someone has a hearing impairment and maybe going to that restaurant you suggested has terrible acoustics for them, that could be really difficult for a loved one. I can tell you firsthand, I went for dinner the other night with my fiance and his grandparents, and they had such a struggle at the restaurant we were at that we had to move eventually. It was too difficult. Does Comfort Keepers in the US have the same emphasis on elevating the human spirit? Great question, Karen. Yes, elevating the human spirit is throughout Comfort Keepers. So we report directly to our master franchisor in the US, and we all follow the same branding guidelines, elevating the human spirit, and interactive caregiving as well. So thank you, Fodi. Perfect. So on the screen, you'll see this is actually a two-sided handout that I have available. And if you are interested in this while you start your search for home care, please do drop your email. You can put it privately in the chat if you don't want to do it publicly. And I'm happy to email this to you. It's a PDF. But these are 20 questions to ask potential care providers when seeking care. So do you provide care that's geared towards physical as well as mental and emotional well-being? How many years have you been in business? Do you keep the family informed and engaged in care? Do you have a method to match caregiver to my needs? So I can tell you personally, after doing a care consultation with the family, I then worked very closely with my scheduler to match caregivers, not only based on geography and availability, but also personality. And if we have a softer spoken caregiver, if they're looking for some client, if they're looking for a softer spoken caregiver, we can make that work. If there's someone who has a hearing impairment, can't do well with accents, we can try to adjust accordingly. Does your agency have liability coverage? Are caregivers bonded for theft? That's important. Ours are. Do your employees go through background checks? Are all of your caregivers employees of your company or not contract workers? Are they covered by workers' compensation? So just to answer for Comfort Keepers while we go down this, yes, all of our caregivers are employees of the company and covered by WSIB, as well as our company's liability insurance, which includes being bonded for theft. Do you have a system for tracking when caregivers arrive and leave their client's home? That's a big thing I hear from other agencies, is that, you know, a client says, my caregiver showed up late and the agency didn't know about it. We have a system we use where we know exactly where they are, when they clocked in, and what time they left. Physical location where I can meet your staff. Is there 24-hour phone service? Again, that's something that Comfort Keepers offers that not many agencies do. We have a 24/7 on-call emergency line. So if you reach our company after hours, you will always be connected to a live individual from our office. Are other caregivers available to step in? Do you have a minimum amount of hours per visit? For our office, we do have a minimum of 3 hours per visit. Do you offer personal care services such as dressing, bathing, incontinence care, transferring, and walking assistance? Does your agency provide transportation services for clients? So as I mentioned before, we can. Typically it's by taxi or Uber, or if the client has their own vehicle and we have a copy of the insurance, assuming we have a driving caregiver available, then our caregiver could drive the client in the client's vehicle. Do you develop a customized plan of care that is updated periodically? Absolutely, that's what I do. That's my area of expertise. Will supervisors periodically come to visit the home? That's what I do. Can you provide documentation explaining clients' rights, code of ethics, workers' compensation, and PIPEDA compliance? Absolutely. Can you provide emergency monitoring systems, medical solutions, and other safety technology? Will you provide a home safety assessment? Do your caregivers have ongoing training? And how quickly can we start? So these are all questions that are really beneficial. And you can see in the columns here, there's Comfort Keepers. Obviously, we've created this piece for you, but then agency A and B. So if you're reaching out to other agencies, you can compare and contrast by adding tick marks or notes there. So this is a really, really helpful tool if you're just getting started and beginning the conversation. So do send me your email if you're interested, and I'm happy to send this afterwards. Perfect.
That's great. Thanks,
Next.
Jessie. There's a bunch of emails in the chat, so we'll make sure we
Great.
that we
Thank
get
you.
those out.
I'm happy to answer any questions during our Q&A period, but I think I'm now going to hand it over to Fodi.
Okay, so as Erin introduced us earlier, my name is Foti Hadzidimitriou, and my company is Concept to Build, and I am an architecturally trained general contractor. What does that mean? It means that I basically am personally involved in developing the design, getting permits, and executing the project. But you're here to find out about how we can make your home accessible and what does that mean in terms of number crunching. So let's get into it a little bit. So we're talking about retirement living, and basically there are sort of 4 categories of retirement living. You have your active adult living, which is hopefully what most people do when they get into retirement. Then
Fodi, I'll just, there was a box. Okay, no, it's gone. Good, thanks.
That box keeps flashing. I'm not sure why. Is that
That's all right. It will keep us present. Looks like the little X. You might be able to exit out on top. It will keep us all present and paying attention, so don't worry.
Trying to move this, but okay, maybe that worked. There we go. Let's see that. Okay, so got to go back a few slides here. So independent living is when you are able to live independently, but you might need a little bit of help in certain things, and you want to certainly get rid of some of the chores that you were probably taking care of. Assisted living is when we're actually getting into a situation where we need full support. And then obviously long-term care is where hopefully none of us will end, but sometimes is an inevitable part of life when we need that continuous care. So I'm going to focus on independent living and assisted living, those 2 categories. So basically when adults don't need on-site care and they can live with their facilities, they can do all the housekeeping, transportation, and everything else, that's independent living. But when you're talking about assisted living, you get what independent living basically is, but you need some activities like bathing, dressing, toileting, grooming, which is the kind of stuff that Jessie and her group will support you with, especially if we're talking about some of the mental abilities and changes, just like I had to deal with them when my father was going through dementia. And long-term care is obviously when we're going to have the facilities where you have constant, near constant monitoring of residents that are entirely dependent on the care of others for feeding, bathing, and other activities, and may require medical attention. So what are we looking at in terms of money? So if you're living in your home, you got your taxes, your repairs, your electricity, gas, cable, phone, your groceries, all the kind of stuff, not the kind of personal stuff that you would have anyway, no matter where you live, but the kind of stuff that maybe changes from the facilities if you were living in one of those facilities. So total monthly expenses, and these are just very simple numbers that I put together, we're looking at about $3,350 a month. Now, in an independent living situation where you're getting some support, that facility is going to cost you about $2,400 to $4,300 a month. But now you're not paying for property taxes, you're not paying for maintenance, electricity, gas, water, and cable. They'll probably still have a phone. There'll be food provided there. Your drugs may or may not be covered, and you may still want to have a car, some car expenses. So if you add that up to your independent living cost facility, you're looking at about $4,800 a month in expenses. In assisted living, you're looking at paying $4,000 to $8,000 per month. And of course, now when you're in assisted living, other than your personal expenses, everything else zeroes out from that first list that we saw. But you're looking at spending, $4,000 to $8,000 a month in assisted living. So in terms of renovations, what are we going to basically need? Well, we're going to first need accessibility. We're going to need to be able to get in and out of our home. And so to do so, we're going to need probably a ramp, whether we're going to be using a walker or a wheelchair, if that ends up being the situation. And we're going to need a wider door. So let's say we demolish the porch, we build a new porch and stairs to the front. We put a ramp, which has to have a 1 in 12 slope. That's why you see this ramp being so big here. And we replace the entry door. Well, that's about a $40,000 cost to do that upgrade to your home, similar to what you see in the picture. Now, in a kitchen situation, we want to create a kitchen where we have proper organizers in so you can access everything that's inside the kitchen. We want to have a cooktop with some space that you can roll under so that if you're in the seated position, you can still use the cooktop. And also the same thing with the sink, we need the space underneath. And hopefully we can get appliances such as this situation here where the oven door opens sideways and rolls out so you can get the food in and out. And the heights of them are positioned in such a way that whether we're standing or seated, we can still use those type of ovens easily. And you need a nice fridge, a dishwasher, and the pull downs that you see in the picture here on the bottom right, which shows how you get things from the upper shelves down to countertop level so that you can have access to them without having to reach to the top, even if you are in a seated situation. So the whole cost of all the changes with the appliances and everything would be about $80,000 for this kind of kitchen. Now, the bathroom, that's the big thing. Any person that's considering aging in place or living in their home for as long as they are able to and willing to is going to have to consider what's called a roll-in shower. We want a shower where you're not going to have obstacles to get in and you're going to have the right support you need. So what is that? You need a bench to sit down. And let's face it, who wouldn't benefit from a bench in the shower? You're going to need a vanity with space underneath. So again, you can roll under it and be in a seated position. Thermostatically controlled shower controls so that you don't scold yourself when somebody else is flushing the water or there's some change in the water pressure. Grab fixtures are what you see here where the towels are and these bars that are positioned. They match the plumbing fixtures. So that's why we're not calling them grab bars, because they are aesthetically pleasing. They have a function like the one that can hold your handheld shower, and the other ones can hold towels, but at the same time, they're strong enough so that you can hold and support yourself so you feel comfortable being in a wet environment where you could possibly slip and have an accident. And of course, we're going to need a 36-inch door to get into the bathroom because we don't want to be restricted if we have to use a walker or have assistance by somebody holding us to get in and out of the bathroom and the shower. So the total cost of renovating this bathroom and converting it into something like this, you're looking at about $50,000. Now, let's add this up. Let's say your ramp's 40, your kitchen's 80, your bathroom's 50. Let's throw in another $30,000 of other renovations you're going to want to do in your home for a total of a $200,000 renovation cost, or as I call it, the modification cost. Because why would you just renovate instead of modifying something that you can take advantage of and live there longer and get resale value when you sell your home? So the average cost of a bungalow we're looking at these days, 1.2 million. Add the $200,000 in modifications that you're going to make to your property, and then just using an appreciation of what the real estate board used to call a 3.2% appreciation value in home year after year. In 15 years, your home is worth $2.2 million. Now, I'm saying something like a person retires at 65, so about 80, 90, they may be considering going into assisted living. So that's why I'm using that 15-year period. If you did this when you start your retirement and you used it until you had to move to assisted living, you could probably get a 15-year appreciation of your property. Although historically now, homes have been going crazy. You're getting a lot more value for your investment. A personal support worker like Jesse's group that supports you in your home is probably around $30 per hour. And if we average of 1 PSW for 6 residents in assisted living, you're looking at a yearly cost of 4 hours daily, $45,000 to have that person come and help you in your home. And that can be adjusted to your needs. So initially, you may not need somebody to come into your home. Later on, you might need them to come in once a week, twice a week to help. Maybe later, it's going to be more. But let's just use these numbers as a sort of average. So independent living yearly costs $35,000 to $57,000 if you're going into an independent living facility. If you're going into an assisted living facility, you're looking at about $38,000 to $96,000. So you can see the math here without really doing all the numbers. We want to keep you in your home where your money is appreciating and you're not spending, as opposed to spending that $1 million to live in one of these facilities and getting nothing for that at the end of it all. So aging in place, that's what it's all about. We want to prepare your home. We want to modify it tastefully so it has a real estate value. And anybody will tell you, if you're going to fix your home, your front door, your kitchen, your bathroom, they're the ones that are going to be a payoff. You're not going to lose money with that. And if it can help keep you in your home and save you from spending all that money into assisted living costs, it's going to be a win-win situation. And Erin, back to you for the question period.
That's great. Thanks so much. So Nancy, you had a question for Fody. Did you want to put that into the chat? It came up in the Q&A. It just said for Fody, so I wasn't sure what the question was. The question is government assistance in helping with costs for renos.
So right now, there is a program that offers seniors of about $10,000 in tax relief if they spend $20,000 in renovations. And as you can see, that's not going to take you very far, but it'll be a little bit of help that you can get with your tax relief. There's also other associations out there that will help with the funding, such as March of Dimes. Unfortunately, they have a very limited budget. And by the time you apply for something like that, and the people that really need it are the ones that have less of an income. If you can afford to do this in your home, or even take the equity out of your home to build this into your home, you're going to be much better off than trying to rely on some of these government handouts.
That's great. Thank you, Fody.
One thing I'll add too, also just to that, sorry, Erin, to cut you off. One thing as well, when it comes to in-home care assistance and government assistance. So there's the Home Community Care Support Services, which was previously called the LIN. And before that, they were called CCAC. Those are the two you might have heard of before, where they can provide government funded PSWs into your home. They do their own assessment pertaining to eligibility and how many hours you'll get. However, just by having government funded care, it exempts you from paying HST on any private care services. So if you have a PSW from the government coming to help mom with showering for an hour, even once a week, if you then supplement that with 6 hours of care from Comfort Keepers, you will not be charged taxes on any of that care, which obviously can add up over time as well. So definitely, if you think you're in the need for some personal care assistance, I would also recommend simultaneously, while reaching out to a private company, get the ball rolling with Home Community Care Support Services so that you can get that tax exemption too.
That's a great tip, Jesse. Thank you. Amazing. So really good to get a lot of practical stuff. So, you know, the questions from Jesse and we'll send those out to the people that ask for them. The calculations from Fody. So you can really sit, and I would recommend, if you're thinking about it for your parents, sit and have a meeting with your parents sooner rather than later. I don't know what sort of age, or I've heard kind of, what do you recommend in terms of when we should have, as adult children are concerned about parents, when should we start these conversations? Jesse?
The sooner the better, honestly. As soon as you've answered yes to any of the questions that you saw within my slides, that's where it's time to get the conversation started, so that, as you mentioned, Erin, the most important thing when it comes to independence and in-home care and safely aging in place is being proactive rather than reactive. So many times I'll get calls from children saying, you know, I'm noticing changes in mom. I don't know if I need it just yet. Can I get the information? Those are the best kind of calls I like to get, rather than a call from the hospital. Mom had a fall. We should have had care in place a year ago and we haven't. I need someone tomorrow, which we can still accommodate, but it makes the experience a very different narrative than if you're coming at a proactive approach. So honestly, the sooner the better. As soon as you see changes happening, start the conversation so that it becomes something comfortable to talk about. It is a really difficult topic and can be very, very sensitive. So just easing into it. I have another article I'm happy to send to anyone who sent me the emails about how to get the conversation started. And as the sooner, the better is the short version of the answer.
Amazing. And Fody, a question for you, asking renovation support services list and in-home care suppliers for Oshawa. Do you guys both cover Oshawa?
So because of the special service that I can provide, I'm going beyond the GTA area. We just finishing a project in Trenton, Ontario, where we're doing a veterans home conversion to accessibility. And so I recognize that there's a need for this. And if we have to, we'll mobilize a team to go sort of the perimeters of the GTA and surrounding area.
And Barbara, to answer your question, Comfort Keepers, we have an East Durham office. So that's outside of our territory. However, I'm happy to send you the contact information for our Oshawa office, and they'll be able to assist your loved one.
Amazing. The other thing I'll mention is you will get a recording. So if there's someone else that you want to send it along to, or you want a review of any of the information, especially maybe some of the numbers that Fody shared, you will get that tomorrow.
Wanda, thank you for that post. Wanda wrote, help promised by the hospital prior to release does not usually kick in right away. Could be a number of weeks wait before it happens. Absolutely. Which is ironic because oftentimes the hospital will not discharge until they know that care is in place and that the patient will get the care they need at home. So again, that's where, you know, someone like Comfort Keepers could come in on an as needed basis, jump in right after discharge until government takes over, or continually after discharge, and help with that transition home from hospital. It's a great point.
Another thing that I see when you react to catastrophic events is that these agencies that are trying to support you and get you back in your home recommend all this equipment be installed in your home because it's a quick turnaround. And then the next thing you know, your home looks like a hospital and you hate it and you don't want to be there. So planning ahead and having these conversations, even when you're just simply thinking of a renovation, don't just think about the simple renovation, but think about how you can do the modifications that you're going to need for later.
That's a great point from oh, sorry, I was just going to say, Fody, that's a great point you made, in the sense that, you know, to what Wanda said, the home community care support services, typically as part of their assessment, they'll send in an OT, an occupational therapist, who will walk around the home, make suggestions of maybe you need a grab pole here, a transfer bar there, you need this, that. And before you start finding, where do I go? Shoppers Well-Wise, all these different places, that's where you should pause, take a look at the list of what they've recommended, and then reach out to someone like Fody who can, again, prevent your home from looking so institutionalized and give you that resale value as well before making all of these purchases.
That's a great point. I was just, Fody, going to ask, you do an assessment or something? What's your process if someone's contacting you?
So with my certification as an aging in place specialist, I can also do a home accessibility report, which is similar to what you do when you do a home inspection report for purchases. Only I look at it from the perspective of what do we have to do to the home today to make it accessible? And that'll include some simple things that the homeowner can do on their own. There could be some DIY projects that they may or may not be able to handle, or they can just get a handyman to do that. But then if it goes beyond that scope, that's when I will identify the kind of things that you will discuss with your designer, if you're using myself or anybody else that has that ability to come up with the right solutions. And to Jesse's addition there, when you have an occupational therapist or a catastrophic event where things are changing in the person's abilities, it's good to get that whole team together to finally put it together a design that's going to benefit everyone. And that's the best approach to doing those things rather than just an immediate reaction.
Absolutely. Any other questions before we wrap up today? Again, thank you so much for participating, and you will get the recording tomorrow. Anything else that you'd like to follow up with? We will download the chat, so we'll get the people that asked for follow up. We'll definitely follow up with you. So
Nancy has another question for Fodi.
Okay, what's your question?
Getting to the second floor.
So Fodi, I think she's talking about assistance in getting to the second floor, or what kind of systems you offer, I guess.
So I've got a really good story about a client of mine who put in a chairlift in a spiral staircase to get her husband upstairs. We can certainly install the type of equipment that's needed to move from one level to another, and that may be the case in some situations, but that spiral stair lift cost over $20,000 to put in a home. And when her husband passed away, she wanted me to remove it because she didn't want to be reminded of her husband. Also, it did not add value to the home. Well, guess what? It's all custom except for the chair itself. So that was money that was lost, as well as having to take it away and do the repairs. Now, if we had put in a simple elevator into the home, yes, the cost would be in the $40,000 range, but now you can sell a home with an elevator and get your money back, as opposed to spending $20,000 and losing that. So where there's a need, and it's the only way we can do it, equipment will be installed, but I try to avoid it to come up with the best solution that adds value to your home, as opposed to having to remove it later.
Yeah, that's a great idea. And Wanda's wondering if the cost of the home accessibility assessment.
So the home accessibility report costs $800. I come in, I do a photographic account of what's there. And then just like the home inspector, I have pictures where I put notes next to the pictures and say room by room, outside conditions or whatever, what should be done to the home.
That's great. Thank you so much. So I think that's our time. I thank Jesse and Fodi so much for coming on and sharing all of their knowledge, and for you guys for participating. So I hope you enjoyed it. I'd love to hear any feedback that you have, and have a fantastic Wednesday afternoon.
Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you, everybody.